Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a quick recap of the first Apple event of 2022 which took place last night. It was really special. We had a lot of major announcements and we had something which is completely brand new that Apple has never done before. So yeah, we're going to look at that right now. The first thing that they spoke about when they started the event was basically Apple TV and a bunch of new movies, a bunch of new shows, and also a major tie-up with baseball on Fridays, which is not a thing in India. So it's not going to make too much of a difference for anyone who's watching this video in India. To be completely honest, Apple TV is great. They have some shows that are really good and they have some shows that are just average. It's not as good as Netflix at this point. It's also not as good as Hotstar or Amazon Prime if you're watching in India. But at the end of the day, Apple TV is growing. They are getting a lot more content on it and it is going to get better in the near future. So honestly, we moved on from Apple TV rather fast. This event was really snappy. I wasn't going to do a full-blown cover of this event, but then I have a lot of people who are asking me to, and that's exactly why I'm doing it. So the next thing that we talked about was the new colors for the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 Pro. Both the lineups have brand new colors. The Pro lineup has a new Alpine green, which reminds me a lot of the midnight green back in the day. It's a little bit darker. It's not too harsh. I think the color is really nice. If you're somebody who's into a green iPhone, I think it's fantastic. Me personally, I'm all about that blue iPhone world, so I'm really happy about that. I'm also quite surprised that they pretty much released this color at this point, considering the iPhones have been out for a while. They've been doing this for the last 2 years. They also had a special edition iPhone 12 mini last year, which I got for my mom, which was a purple color, which was really nice. So the spring event in March pretty much has new colors for the iPhone, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue for a while. After all this, we also got the brand new iPhone SE. Now, to be completely honest, the iPhone SE is an iPhone 8 body with a fingerprint scanner that's Touch ID, but it has the internals of an iPhone 13. So basically what I'm talking about is we have the new A15 Bionic chip on the inside of this. We also have 5G support, a slightly better battery life, but all of this is put into an older body so that they can bring the price down. It is essentially the cheapest iPhone that Apple makes. It comes for about $43,000 in India. That's the starting price, which is around $429 in the US. Now, the iPhone SE is actually probably the most boring iPhone that Apple actually makes. It's mainly for people who want to switch over from Android to iPhone, get the experience of the latest iPhones, but just an older form factor. I think it's a great way that they're implementing Touch ID on this, and I wish we get Touch ID on the iPhone 14 series. But to be completely honest, the iPhone SE is great. It's a good phone for the price range that you get. The cameras are brand new. You do get deep fusion now on the cameras. You have a 12 megapixel camera. You have 5G support. You have the new photographic styles on it. So basically everything that the A15 Bionic chip brings to the iPhone 13 series, you get that with the iPhone SE, which is pretty great. Plus the battery life went up, which was a major downside for last year's iPhone SE. So it's a win-win nonetheless. Next major update was to the iPad Air. Now, the iPad Air has been the mid-line, the mid-tier iPad of Apple's lineup over the last few years. But last year, Apple updated the iPad mini to the A15 Bionic, which is the same that's inside our iPhone 13 series, making it slightly more powerful than the iPad Air. So yeah, now we do have the iPad Air with the M1 chip, the same chip that I have inside the iPad Pro here and the MacBook Pro right here. It is a revolutionary chip. It is fantastic. People who are doing any kind of creative work, if you use this for sketching, drawing, illustration, gaming, you're going to notice a difference. Photo editing and video editing is going to be a breeze on this device because the M1 chip is a complete beast. We do lack a large amount of software support even today on the iPad Air, considering iPad OS is so limited. It's not as good as Mac OS. We lack professional video editing, music creation, even coding apps. We can use Swift UI to code. It's not as good as what you have on the MacBooks or on a proper computer. Now, that being said, the M1 chip is fantastic on the iPad Air because now you have a mid-tier iPad that's more powerful than 80% of Windows computers and tablets on the market. But the fact of the matter remains that the iPad Pro and the iPad Air have very little to differentiate between the two of them. The same accessories work on both. They both are compatible with the Magic Keyboard as well as the Apple Pencil, which I have right here. So yeah, it is great that we have an M1 chip iPad Air. It's going to be a lot easier for a lot of people to go out and buy an iPad that's not the most expensive iPad on the market, but get that performance. Basically, what I'm saying is they took the iPad Air, which was actually lacking in performance compared to the iPad Pro and the iPad Mini, and they brought it back into the lineup and slotted it in the right position. And they've brought it so close to the iPad Pro that I'm super pumped to see what comes for the iPad Pro next. And maybe we finally get Final Cut Pro on these devices. We probably will get Logic Pro on these devices, probably get Xcode on these devices. It's possible, and nobody really knows why Apple hasn't done it yet. But moving on quickly, just like Apple did, we now have a brand new Mac, something completely new to the lineup. This is essentially going to be the second most powerful desktop Apple has ever made. This is the Mac Studio, which is basically, if you look at it, it looks like a Mac Mini if it got really fat and got really beefed up and ate a lot of protein. This is basically what it looks like. The Mac Studio is probably the most powerful Mac right now in the market. The exciting part about the Mac Studio is the fact that it also comes with a brand new M1 chip. It comes with the M1 Ultra chip on the inside, which has a 20-core CPU, which is completely crazy. So this is essentially got the M1 Max into two. If you join two M1 Max chips, that's crazy powerful. And now, putting things into perspective, my iPad Pro and my MacBook Pro are both running the M1 chip on them, the standard M1 chip. Above that, we have the M1 Pro, which gives you a lot more performance than the M1 chip. Then you have the M1 Max, which increases the performance by huge leaps, which I do not have here. And then you have two M1 Max chips, which are put together to give you the M1 Ultra chip. Now, this is a lot of power, but this also means 99.9% of you who are watching this video will never go out and buy this desktop, simply because I have two M1 devices right in front of me, the M1 MacBook Pro as well as the M1 iPad Pro, and both of these devices can basically do everything that I need, which is basically run this YouTube channel. Overall, the performance that I get on the standard M1 chip is so amazing, along with amazing battery life, that I mean, if you need more performance, you have two more options, which is the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, which are available on laptops as well as on the iMac. And then you also now have the M1 Ultra, which is completely retarded. Now, the M1 Ultra, the specs are insane. You have a 20-core CPU with 16 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores, and 48 cores of GPU, which means this is going to be crazy. You can configure this with 64 GB of RAM at the base model and can go up to 128 gigabytes of RAM. Now, that is completely nuts. I have 8 gigabytes of RAM on my MacBook Pro and about 6 gigabytes of RAM on my iPad Pro, and this is super fast because of how good macOS and iOS or iPadOS actually is. You don't need that much of RAM even if you're video editing. It's good enough. 99% of the people in the market will not have a hiccup with these devices, which puts things into perspective. Do you really need to go out and buy the Mac Studio? No. This is for creative professionals. If you're somebody who works in a studio, full-time job is being a creative, and you need that kind of horsepower and you want that at home, that's when you're probably going to go out and buy the Mac Studio. But it is truly amazing. I love the amount of ports they've given you on this. So now, to go with your Mac Studio, you also have the brand new Studio display, which is fantastic. It's a 27-inch 5K display, which is powered by the A13 Bionic chip. Yeah, you have a chip inside this display, but it's not a computer. It has a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera on the front with center stage, which is going to be fantastic for video calls. It also has a really good microphone system on it, which is a studio quality mics, which Apple has had on their MacBooks as well as on their iPads for a very long time. It is truly fantastic. And it also has a 6-speaker system, which has got deep bass, and it's supposed to be really loud and really powerful. So yeah, it is a fantastic display, but it starts at 1,59,000 rupees in India for the standard glass. You also have a nano textured glass, which costs 1,89,000 rupees. And remember, this is a display. It's insane. Now, this is definitely the younger brother to the Pro Display XDR, which is Apple's biggest, most premium, most expensive display ever made. It is fantastic too. But yeah, this display is definitely a lot more affordable, a lot more reachable, and it's really good on the overall. Yet again, 99% of the people on the market are not going to buy this display or this stand, just like they didn't for the Pro Display XDR. So sure, that was the entire Apple event. Now, it was a great event from a tech perspective. I absolutely love what they did with the Mac Studio. I love that they improved the iPhone SE. The new colors on the iPhones are great, but this should have probably come out at launch date so we could get our hands on it. And overall, the Mac Studio and the Studio display is truly revolutionary. But am I going to go out and buy anything that came in this Apple event, that we saw on this Apple event? I don't think so. Are 99% of you who watch this channel going to go out and buy anything? Probably the iPhone SE or the iPad Air if you don't have those devices. Those are consumer-based devices which are going to perform really well in 2022. So yeah, those are the devices that you need to look out for. That's what you want to concentrate on. This event didn't have a lot on a consumer front. It had a lot for professionals. If you're in that camp, if you're somebody who's actually going to go out and buy any of the new Apple products that came up, do hit me up in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button. See you next time.